Welcome back. The Wake County School District has been the focus of a lot of attention over the past year. The incredible growth has meant that the district has had to consider all sorts of options to make seats for students. Last month, voters passed a controversial bond that will help pay for school construction, but that will not solve all of the problems. A school reassignment plan is still in the works that will mean some students will be moving around. Here to talk about the reassignment plan, Rosa Gill. She is on the right side of your screen there. She is a vice chairman of the Wake County School Board. Also a supporter of year-round schools, Carolyn Koning, the PTA president at Green Year-Round Elementary School. Thank you both for being here. Also here, Garner's Mayor Ronnie Williams, who is against the reassignment plan. He is at the left side of your screen there. Dave Duncan is here as well. He is from Stop Mandatory Year-Round, and thank you, gentlemen, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let's just get started here. Ms. Gill, I know that a recommendation regarding the plan is going to be presented to the school board in about a week. How much are individual parents' comments going to be considered when it comes to assigning people to schools, assigning these students to schools?
Okay, the plan has already been, a draft plan for by growth management has already been established. We're now in the process of receiving comments from parents. There are some things out there that we're not as familiar with as some of the parents are, and we're looking for input into the program that will help us make the program better. So we will take all of the comments, and growth management should be refining their draft plan before they present it to us on January the 9th.
Okay, now I know, Ms. Koning, that you have been a supporter of the year-round schools. Tell me how it's working personally for your family.
Well, the way we came to year-round is kind of interesting. We had concerns about what at the time our base school was. So we applied to several magnet programs and the year-round, basically just trying to avoid what we perceived to be a less desirable school situation. And we have loved year-round. We sort of fell into it. We weren't necessarily seeking it, but it has been a very positive experience for my children and our family.
Okay, now obviously everybody not feeling the same way. I'm going to cross the table and talk to you, Mayor. Your town is actually looking into potential litigation in regard to this. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I learned a long time ago that being mayor is not about me. It's about the people I represent. And those people that I represent have come to the Board of Aldermen numerous times stating that they were not being received well going before the growth management people, and then made several trips to talk to them for the majority of the school board. So they asked us if we would support their effort, and they expressed a lot of dissatisfaction and disappointment with the proposed plan, and we do realize that it's a proposed plan and there's other work to be done on it. But the board did, as you've already stated, ask the attorney to explore our options in terms of litigation. And next Wednesday on the 3rd, we meet with an attorney in Charlotte, in the greater Charlotte area. And, you know, this is not a threat. This is a promise, and we're going to follow through with it.
Well, Mayor, what's the crux of the issue in Garner?
Neighborhood schools. I think the straw that broke the camel's back was the Arbor Green subdivision, which is a community that grew up around the school that was already there, roughly 170, 200 homes in there. And in this latest proposal, there are people who literally live side by side with children going to different schools. They make a case that if left alone, a diversity will be achieved, the neighborhoods will go to the neighborhood school, and the real answer to them is the neighborhood school, because there's enough people there to support it.
Mr. Duncan, listening to the mayor, if I interpret you correctly, sir, and if I'm misinterpreting, please correct me, it would seem as he's saying that the folks in Garner have a legal right, if not a constitutional right, I would think, if you're going the legal route, to a neighborhood school. Do you agree with that?
Is it constitutional? I don't know that it's constitutional. It certainly is a desire that is expressed within the community. You know, neighborhood school is an interesting word. It gets thrown around sometimes in a very positive fashion, sometimes with very negative connotations as to, I want to exclude other people from my school. Basically, people want stability. They want their kids going to school with their peers. And the current process of student assignment just doesn't allow that. You know, you talk about neighborhood schools, and many times that's positioned as being a bad thing, an exclusionary thing. But then on the other side of the issue, the Wake County Public System says, well, you know, we don't, majority of kids aren't going more than 5 or 10 miles away from their home kids are going to close nearby schools, but it's not always in the context of their neighborhood and their peers going to school. Because our assignment process is very reactionary, rather than a proactive, what I think would be a creative, thought-out, year-over-year plan, we end up with Band-Aids year after year after year. We end up with nodes. We end up with split neighborhoods. We had a situation last year in Apex where one neighborhood got sent to 3 different high schools. Now, that, when that happens to a community, they say, wait a minute, what's up with this? These are our families that we want to keep together. But the temperament of the community, from what I have seen, is folks that push back and ask for these types of assignments has never been to exclude folks from their schools. That's not what they're trying to do. They're trying to get stability. They're trying to keep rising peer groups together. I think a thoughtful reassignment program needs to be developed for Wake County that does just that, gives logical feeder patterns, keeps kids. If you're busing kids in for diversity, then those kids, or busing kids out for diversity, there ought to be a thoughtful pattern that these kids are going to stay together year over year, K through 12, and really become a support group and build those kinds of relationships that are going to help each other make a success. You can't just say you're busing for diversity as a poor excuse for growth management.
Ms. Gill, they don't like your plan.
Well, it's not our plan yet, but it is our administration plan, and we do have a thoughtful process. And we do look at community schools. We don't define them as neighborhood schools because these schools are paid for by taxpayers. We build the schools where we think the growth will be. Once that growth, the capacity is more than, when the growth is greater than the capacity, we have to then decide on how we're going to make sure our schools are safe and appropriate for learning and teaching. So, even though some of the neighborhoods are split, this is something that's been going on for years.
Well, Ms. Gill, you now have the folks in Garner who are saying that, if I heard you correctly, it's a promise that there will be litigation. You have the folks in Western Wake, Apex in particular, they are very upset. They are taxpayers as well. More and more people who live in Wake County are saying they are not happy with the reassignment process from the school board. Do you believe that these parents have any right for you to make a change in your plans based on their opposition, other than them changing the makeup of the board itself? Do they have any other right to you to respond to them?
We will respond to the needs of our school system.
Will you respond to the needs of the folks in Garner?
We respond to the needs of students and parents all over the county. Litigations, we can't stop litigations. However, we know that we are, by statute, supposed to assign schools. And we try very, very hard to make sure that all of our students have access to a well-rounded education so that they can be successful citizens. Sometimes this may mean that some parents and some students are not happy with their assignment, but they all are assigned to great schools. If you go back and look, all of our schools are good schools.
Well, if they're all good schools, why are they being bussed around?
They're not necessarily being bussed around. They're being assigned to help us with capacity gains. If growth happens, even if growth would happen evenly across the county, then we wouldn't have to assign students. And if we could build schools as fast as our growth is, we wouldn't have to assign students. But we have to assign students based on where we have capacity and where we can best help them be successful.
All right, we have to wrap right there. Thank you all very much. When At Issue returns, we're going to discuss some big stories of the year in politics, including John Edwards' announcement. We'll be right back.